ESPN just updated its BPI title odds, and the Bucks are the overwhelming favorites at 83%, followed by the Lakers at 13%, then the Clips. So that BPI, that is a much higher percentage than what Caesars Vegas odds have. In Vegas, the Lakers are the favorites, although those odds often reflect who they think people will bet on. And guys, no matter where you put the odds, this is clearly the Bucks' best shot at a title in nearly 50 years. They have not only had the best record in the league, they lead the NBA in point differential from both their starters and their bench, even ahead of the Clippers bench. So, Perk, I want to talk about that depth. This bubble scenario has the potential to really test teams. There's a higher chance of soft tissue injuries due to the long layoff, like pulling hamstrings, all that stuff. And then, of course, any player that contracts COVID is going to be quarantined for at least 14 days. Are the Bucks the team that's best positioned to handle a potential setback like that?
Well, no, Rachel. Although they are deep, every team needs their players, right? You're deep for a reason. Each guy matters. I remember playing in 2010 with the Boston Celtics when I tore my ACL. We still had Rasheed Wallace. We still had Kevin Garnett, but we could not pull through. And then you take a further look at the Bucks. Just think last year, right? Eric Bledsoe wasn't playing well. What happened? George Hill had to step in. So everyone is going to help them win the game. You know, stars are going to be stars, but each role player helps a championship team win a series or win a game. So, you know, it could, if any one of those guys that are in the rotation happen to get injured or contract the coronavirus, it could hurt them just like anyone else.
Rachel, you bring up a good point. They do have depth, which is a really good thing to have on this circumstance, but who's going? Is it Giannis? If Giannis goes out,
right,
the rest of their depth is sort of irrelevant. But I will say this, what they have is depth of style of play. And what I mean by that is they are a top 5 offensive team and a top 5 defensive team. Heck, they've been a top 3 in both categories for much of the season. And when you can play at both ends like that, it increases your margin for error. And if I'm talking about margin for error, I'm talking about playoffs, and that makes me happy, as a side note.
Absolutely. Gosh, that 83% BPI number is so interesting to me. And, of course, a big reason, Giannis Antetokounmpo, the Greek freak, the favorite to repeat as NBA MVP. And, of course, we've been talking about this. He is eligible to sign that Supermax contract extension this offseason. Now, Giannis has repeatedly said winning is the most important thing to him. If Milwaukee keeps winning, he will be happy as a Buck. In this bubble restart, Brian, how much should the playoffs impact his decision, or do you think what happens with the salary cap this offseason should be more of a factor? This is like the craziest offseason we're ever going to have.
Boy, doesn't it all depend? I mean, you say to the Bucks, does this playoffs matter? If they win, they hope it matters. They hope he's re-signed. If they lose, they're like, yeah, I hope it doesn't matter. The salary cap is something that hasn't been negotiated yet. I don't know where that's going. My feel is that the cap will probably stay elevated, and they'll deal with it another way. So I think he'll still be incentivized. But the Supermax will come down. The referendum on the entire concept of the Supermax will happen with Giannis. If he signs it, the Supermax will have worked beautifully. The Bucks will celebrate. If he doesn't, the Supermax, for some of the other reasons, will be a failure, and I predict it'll be thrown out in the next CBA.
Well, the way I'm looking at it is that I'm listening to Giannis. Giannis is saying, I'm not saying I want to be a Buck full time. He's saying I want to win. So this is putting pressure on the Milwaukee Bucks and the organization that they have to win. They have to at least get to the finals. That means to tell me that Giannis is open to leaving. If they don't win or build or get pieces around him that could help him win, he's not going to sign that contract. And we all know he's very good friends with a lot of the Golden State Warriors, especially Steph Curry. And we know that they have,
You're just going to fan the flames of that, right? I'm just watching you do it. I'm watching you.
I'm just saying, we all know that they have, you know, that special to go get a star like, you know, Giannis. So you got to watch out for him. And then you got to watch out for a team like the Miami Heat. Pat Riley, he's always aggressive. So Giannis is putting the ball in their court. Giannis is putting a lot of pressure on himself and the Bucks and saying, hey, I want to win. He haven't fully committed to the Bucks, so They have to take this bubble very seriously and go down there and win games and make it to the finals.
And he should be putting that pressure on the Bucks. This is why players have fought for free agency, not only to give players freedom of choice about where they live and work, but also so that they have some say and that there is pressure on teams to create winning teams and rosters around them. I disagree with you a little bit about the referendum on the Supermax, Brian. I think that conversation has already happened. The Supermax is basically a bribe that owners offered to try to get players to stay with their teams. And the truth is, it hasn't worked. If a player has wanted to leave, like Anthony Davis, he has left. If a player has wanted to stay, like Russell Westbrook, he has signed it, which just means he's got even more money and then becomes a little bit harder to trade. And we saw everything that happened with the trade of him with the Rockets also as well. So I think the Supermax, we've already found out it doesn't work, but we will see what Anthony Davis does this summer. Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.